Oi, so we're leaving them behind. It was a long, dull trip back home, but I didn't lose focus. I firmly squeezed the grip of the bat, which was already soggy from sweat. Realizing that I wiped it down with my sleeve, if something were to happen, I wouldn't want it to be slippery. Since this morning, I became especially sensitive to the presence of cars. Even while walking, my ears pricked up and sought out threatening sounds and presences that could be closing in. And that was why I could hear it. Without a doubt, there were footsteps. Those footsteps had matched up perfectly with mine for a while. From what I could sense, it was just one person, but I had no intention of being careless. Did they intend to follow me like the car this morning until we were in a good location to assault me? Then it wasn't a good idea to keep walking like this. I stopped walking and looked back. The wooded path crowded with trees responded with silence, as if there was nobody there to begin with. But I wouldn't be fooled. I was certain footsteps were following me. And just as I stopped, the footsteps stopped as well. Meaning, the person following me wanted to keep their distance. That was, without a question, proof that I was their target. I held my breath, waiting for that presence to panic and start moving again. The trees rustled with the sound of the wind. The Higurashi also joined in the dissonant chorus, trying to throw my focus into disarray. Had 5 minutes passed, or had I been like this for the whole 30 minutes? It was so hard to breathe that I might have suffocated. It seemed I would be the first one to panic. Without a doubt, he was lurking in the shade of that tree with bated breath. Then I'd make the first move. I fixed my grip on the bat. I raised up to my shoulder, ready to swing at any time. Hey, I know you're there. With all my might I screamed at whoever was hiding in the shade of the trees. But the presence in the shade didn't budge. Until the moment I found them, they had no intention of revealing themselves. I know already. I know you're there. I screamed out angrily at them again, but even still, they did not move at all. Then I'll go over there myself. With all due vigilance, I approached, step by step. Stepping into the tree's shadow, I saw a human figure there. That figure was curled up like a small animal. Rena. When she realized I found her, her expression softened. She seemed apologetic, but wasn't going to speak a word. Did you have some business with me? I wouldn't accept that silence and screamed the question at her. Being so mean. Not really, it's just, when I was in a panic with tears welling up in her eyes. But it was obvious that she had been following me. What about the club? Since you're not, I'm not. That shouldn't matter. Don't mind me and just play. But I'm just worried about you. Thinking about how I'd been acting up until now, it wasn't hard to imagine that my behaviour could have been perceived as strange. Lorena was concerned at a quick glance. That's how it would seem. But I wasn't going to let my guard down so easily. Even if that was the case, she still wouldn't have to do something like try to tail me. She should have called out to me when I was leaving and gone out right with me. But Rena didn't do that. She kept her distance from me and matched my walking speed. On top of that, she matched the sound of my footsteps and deviously tried to hide her presence from me. Then, After she realized I noticed she was there, she held her breath as she tried hiding from me. She wore a timid expression, or that would force one to take pity on her, but without a doubt, she was tailing me. Stop following me. Oh. Still glaring at Rena, I continued walking onwards. After I walked for a bit, she ignored my command and began walking again, so I yelled at her once more. I told you not to follow me. But my house is in the same direction. Then walk ahead of me. I'll start walking once I can't see you anymore. I moved out of my way and waved my bat violently to urge her forward. I like to go home together, with you. Making a pitiful expression, she meekly squeaked out the words in a voice that she knew would cut into my heart. That agitated me to no end. I knew it was a lie. If you wanted to go home together, then you should have called out to me. Now you're just blurting out random lies. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It seems that the seething anger within me was written all over my face. Even without me saying anything, Rena had understood what I was feeling inside. Boy, I wonder what kind of face he's making at this moment in time. Like, what kind of angry face are we making? If you get it, then go. I swung the bat, urging her again to walk. Rena looked back and forth between me and the bat, and started walking hesitantly, then stopped again. Go on then, hurry. I'm going. So please stop with the bat. It's scary. Rena guarded herself off, pointing at me holding the bat. She may have realised that I wasn't planning on using this bat for baseball. I lowered the bat, but still guardedly opened the way for her. Go. There's no problem now, is there? There was nothing else she could protest. She passed by me, timidly, so as to not set me off. As I watched her pass by, she stopped completely, having barely moved at all. Hey, don't stop. Then, a powerful gust blew past us, barraging my face with dust. The dust got into my eyes and clouded my vision. While rubbing my eyes with my left hand, I swung blindly with the bat in my right, protecting the small opening I had presented. But Rena didn't even try to attack during that opening. Attack me? No. She hadn't budged an inch. I could tell from the sound of her fluttering skirt in the wind. As her skirt settled, so did the silence. What an odd comparison. At that moment, the voice inside of me immediately warned of the impending danger. I was caught by surprise. The smell of the air had changed. Without me realising it, the air around me suddenly felt like a calamity was about to befall me. It was like the air had suddenly become invisible concrete, like Rena and I were locked in this space. Rena didn't move an inch. Also unable to move, I stared at her back. Rena was the first to break the silence. Instantly, she altered her stance. I felt like I had just witnessed her shift from Rena into that other person who looks like Rena. But the voice was one I knew well, which filled me with a kind of bewildering pity. Carelessly, I felt relief upon hearing that pitiful voice. Well, excuse me, but can I ask you something? Too shy to even turn around, Rena squeezed her voice out desperately, as she trembled. What? Well, why do you have that bat, I wonder? The question Rena asked was by no means unexpected. I can carry whatever I want, but you didn't have one up until today. Why so suddenly? It's alright if I decide to do something suddenly, isn't it? Is it strange that I have a bat? But because, Keiichi, you're not the kind of person to play baseball. It's weird. I couldn't tell what kind of answer she was looking for, and I was getting tired of answering her. I just suddenly got the urge to play baseball. Is it so weird? It's weird. He answered instantly, and that annoyed me slightly. Just suddenly wanted to play baseball. And I wanted to practice my swing, so I'm carrying around a bat. What's strange about that? Range. Weird. Definitely. Why has Keiichi also? Your ramblings are annoying me. Is it that strange for me to have an interest in sports? I tried to sound a bit more threatening to end the conversation. Until my suspicions about Rena were cleared, I had no obligations to answer her questions. I'm sorry. Don't get so angry. Rena still didn't turn around and spat out words of apology one after the next. Just one last thing. Tell me one last thing. I don't feel like talking anymore. Hurry up and go. I yelled out loudly at her, causing her to flinch like she had been struck. Seeing her in such a pathetic state caused my heart to ache sorely. But even though she was afraid, she stubbornly kept herself from moving. Before I was able to threaten her again, Rena asked her final question. Why is that bat the same too? What did she mean by the bat was the same? I had no idea what she was talking about. What are you saying? I mean, why is even the bat the same? I don't understand what you mean at all. Say it clearly. Even still, Rena didn't turn around. After inhaling deeply, she screamed. I mean, why is even the bat the same as Satoshi-kun's? Satoshi? Being her? Upon hearing that name out of the blue, I became dumbfounded for a brief moment. By Satoshi, did she mean the student who was transferred out last year? No, that couldn't be. Rena had tried to cover it up by saying he transferred out, but Oshi-san told me quite clearly that he was missing. He was the student who sat in my seat up until last year. He was believed to be demoned away by Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't know the details about his disappearance. The aunt he lived with was killed at the night of the Watanagashi by a drug addict, and not long after that, he suddenly vanished and was now missing. That Satoshi and I were. What? My gaze fell onto the bat in my hands. Could it be? Satoshi Hojo. It was a bit difficult to see. That was what was written on the white tape at the end of the bat. I see. So this was Satoshi's bat. Oh. This was Satoshi's bat. Since nobody was using it, I borrowed it. That's not a problem, is it? That's not it. The way Rena said that, it made it seem this bat was something that should never have been touched. Like it was some sort of offering at a shrine, or a memento of the deceased. I could only stand there, perplexed, and unable to respond. Rena continued speaking without waiting for a reply. Wow, that was hard to say. Why is it? Why is it that you're doing the exact thing Satoshi-kun did when it happened to him? Rena was talking about more than just the bat belonging to Satoshi. It was the same with Satoshi-kun. He joined a baseball team, but he didn't really like baseball. What does that have to do with me? Satoshi-kun also suddenly started walking around with a bat one day. He joined a team, but he wasn't the type to play sports. what about it? I closed my mouth before I could say that out loud. Listen carefully, Keiichi. Rena is trying to tell us something important. Satoshi-kun also one day came to school all by himself all of a sudden, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day, he suddenly started practicing his swing, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day, he suddenly began carrying the bat around with him, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day, he suddenly what? Rena had swallowed her words. Rena's sudden silence brought a hush back to the surrounding area. It was then I could finally digest the contents of the entire conversation. She was trying to say my chain of actions were exactly the same as Satoshi's? What was the meaning of this? Up until now, I had forgotten all about Satoshi. I had never paid much thought of him in the first place. Not only that, I didn't even know anything of what he'd done. My actions today should have been my own creations, after all the planning I've done. But they had been the same as Satoshi's? Then, Satoshi, no, more importantly. If both Satoshi and I acted the same, then there was a really good possibility that what happened after would be the same. Rena, that day, what happened to Satoshi? Rena knew. He knew what had become of Satoshi. No, forget about what happened to a guy in the past. Rena, she knew what was going to happen to me. Answer me, Rena. Satoshi, what happened to him? With that, I grabbed not grabbing Satoshi's shoulders, I grabbed Rena's shoulders violently and forcefully turned her around to face me. Oh, he did a bad move. A really bad move. As I faced her, I felt a jolt travel through my entire body. There we go. I told you, Keiichi-kun. It was that person I didn't know. At least it definitely wasn't the Rena Ruga I'd been talking up until now. The voice just now didn't have a trace of the trembling or emotion that it had before. The amount of regret I felt for turning her around so carelessly was unsurpassed. That gaze that pierced like a cold needle, the smile on her face that invoked an image of having been carved out by a knife. Chills went down my spine. My mind froze under a layer of rime. Both of Rena's eyes pierced through me, leaving me unable to look away, as if to remind me of the fear from that time before. Rena brought her face close to mine, so close that I could feel her breath. Her face had filled my entire field of vision. Then, her sharply shaped lips grew even sharper, like the curve of a crescent moon. She grinned. I told you, Keiichi-kun. After a short pause, Rena repeated the same words again. Satoshi-kun, you see, he transferred out. Transferred, meaning what? What Rena meant must have been the same new... What Rena meant must have been some new definitions of transfer that I was not previously aware of. My throat and lips dried up. I couldn't even acknowledge what I had just heard. All I could do was swallow down my own saliva. It would seem that Rena was that... It seems that Rena was that as a nod. She pulled her gaze back and spryly stepped back 2-3 paces. As she did, my legs gave out and I fell onto my knees pathetically. Rena, and me on my knees underneath her emotionless smile. That had to be the very odd sight indeed. Seeing me in that pathetic state, she neither scoffed at me nor held out her hand. But I could neither stand nor escape her gaze shooting through my eyes. There was undoubtedly a metal bat in my hand. but right now it was useless to me. I was like a fly caught in a web. Heavy sweat beaded down all over my body. I could feel it dripping from my skin. But you won't, will you, Keiichi-kun? Rena finally released me from that cage of time after what felt like an eternity. But the question was missing something important, and was incredibly vague. Once again, I swallowed hard, urging her on. Do what? What did she not want me to do? Oh, transfer. Bye, creepy Rena. Oh, that's just bye.